American Top 40.
On AT40, we're up to survey song number 21, sung by the American group who've been hitting the top of the charts in Europe for the last couple of years, but this is their very first American Top 40 single. It's Blondie, up 5 notches with Heart of Glass. The group is Blondie, and their hit song at number 21, moving up 5, is Heart of Glass.
Casey's Coast to Coast.
You know, we've all heard of deals being sealed with a handshake or a toast. Well, for the rock group Blondie, the most important move in their career was sealed with a few lines scribbled on a cocktail napkin. According to Blondie's manager, Peter Leeds, the group had been able to build up a small, loyal following after their first album. But they just couldn't break onto the charts. They felt that if they could only change producers, they might have a chance at finding a more commercial direction. The problem was they were still under contract to their current producer for another album. Well, one day Blondie was performing at the famous rock club The Whiskey here in Hollywood, and in walked super producer Mike Chapman. Blondie's manager saw him, noticed that Chapman was enjoying the band. So he grabbed the paper napkin from under his drink and scribbled a note to Chapman saying, "If there's a possibility of a new producer, I promise you the first shot." Well, after Blondie finished their second album, they got in touch with Chapman, hoping he'd remember their promise to let him produce them. So imagine their surprise when they walked into his office and saw that cocktail napkin framed and hanging on the wall. Mike Chapman went on to produce Blondie's album along with their first chart single in America, Heart of Glass, which went all the way to number 1 a few weeks ago. This week, Blondie's second chart single, also produced by Chapman, debuts at number 35. And here it is, One Way or Another.
One way.
Coming in at number 35, the highest debuting record of the week. That's Blondie and One Way or Another. 34 big ones to number 1 as we count them down.
American Top 40.
This is Casey Kasem with American Top 40 from Hollywood. You know, Blondie's lead singer, Deborah Harry, was such a pretty baby that her mother was constantly urged by friends to send Debbie's picture to the Gerber Baby Food Company because she was sure to be picked as the Gerber baby. But Mrs. Harry didn't want to exploit her daughter's pretty face and raised her instead to become a rock star. Deborah and Blondie hold at number 24 this week with One Way or Another. The group is Blondie, and their song at number 24 again this week is One Way or Another.
The hits from coast to coast.
Well, now on AT40, we're up to the latest hit by a woman who was so wild in her youth that her parents, hoping to straighten her out, sent her to a finishing school for young ladies. This is the story of Deborah Harry, lead singer of the rock band Blondie, as told to her biographer Lester Bangs. In the early 60s, Deborah was going to Hawthorne High School in New Jersey. She said, "I was sort of weird. I had my hair bleached white at first, but after a while, I must have had 10 or 12 different hair colors, all streaks, until I dyed my hair orange. Sometimes I'd walk out of my house looking like a ghoul, and no one at school would talk to me." End of quote. Well, Deborah's parents stood as much of that as they could, then sent her to what Deborah describes as a finishing school for future corporation wives. They'd hoped it would make their daughter a bit less weird. But their plan had a flaw. You see, the school they sent Deborah to was in New York City, and it wasn't very long before Deborah had discovered Greenwich Village. She dropped out of school and joined her first band called Wind in the Willow. That was way back in 1967. 13 years later, Deborah Harry is one of the most popular and well-finished rock singers of our time. Here's Blondie at number 33 with Call Me. Deborah Harry and Blondie at number 33 with a former number 1 record called Call Me, theme song from American Gigolo. We have 32 hits to number 1, and we're counting them down.
Casey's Coast to Coast.
Now, let's find out whatever happened to one of the top acts of the late 70s and early 80s. Whatever happened to the New York band featuring lead singer Debbie Harry? The band, Blondie. Well, Blondie were one of the first new wave bands to chart big. And in 1979, they hit number 1 with Heart of Glass and had 3 more number 1s, Call Me, The Tide is High, and Rapture. Then, in 1982, in the middle of a concert tour, Blondie's guitarist, Debbie Harry's boyfriend, Chris Stein, collapsed. He became very sick, couldn't eat, and his weight dropped. It took 10 days of hospital tests to discover Chris had a rare genetic disease called pemphigus. He had to undergo long-term special treatment. Meanwhile, the members of Blondie decided it was best to split up. Debbie Harry put her own singing career on hold. Day in and day out, she was at Chris's hospital bedside, helping him battle his disease. 4 long years later, he's home, and he told writer Glenn O'Brien that his disease is in remission and he's doing well. Debbie Harry is now ready to sing again. She's working on a new solo album. The former drummer of the band Blondie, Clem Burke, now tours with Eurythmics. Keyboardist Jimmy Destry is a new father raising a baby girl. Bassist Nigel Harrison and guitarist Frank Infatti are out forming new bands. And that's whatever happened to Blondie, one of the most popular groups of the early 80s. And the countdown continues.
The